every once in a while because it's in our dialect, right? It's in our communication, the 9/11 tragedy. So I'm purposely changing the word to event, just to not get caught in that for the moment. Not to take away from anybody else's experience, though. Those children don't really have a choice in how they will view this for a long time. They will view it as their parents and friends view it, which is a tragedy, a horrific, horrific tragedy. And so I thought, what about the kids? And that's been a really interesting thought process in my own mind. And then the last thing I thought about, at least for the last week, was we have this idea called race consciousness or race thought, or the hypnotic state of the human race. And we believe that all accumulated thoughts are in the race consciousness, and our subconscious can react to it or be driven by it until we become aware of it. And as soon as we become aware of the race consciousness or race thought, we counteract it. So the whole world can think something's bad, and we will think it's bad too, until we have an acknowledgement of truth about it, and then we release that whole race conscious hold on us. Do you guys know kind of what I'm talking about? It's part of our teaching. We really believe strongly that there's race thought, and we have to be aware of it as Science of Mind people. And I thought, wow, 10 years is an interesting time to recognize what maybe has entered into race consciousness, subtly, of course, and how we might want to take notice of it and challenge it in our own lives. So if we think of 9/11 as a tragedy, because that's the race consciousness today, and it was, not taking away from that, but the race consciousness identifies it. We as a human race will hold on to that energy, that negative energy, for a really long time, until enough of us challenge the race consciousness around that to pull away from that draining energy to move it to a positive energy. Some of you I know think about this a lot. Are we focused on the bad things that happen, or are we trying to make progress on the good things that can come of it? You know, so race consciousness is a really interesting thing for me. Okay, I mentioned a couple of minutes ago this idea of a burden. I think that we as Science of Mind people, or anyone in New Thought who adopts a principle of truth in their life, we have kind of like a burden on our shoulders. And this would not be probably a common way of thinking it, but we live life knowing the truth and having to respond to it and take action around it. It's kind of like a burden, maybe. So when we're out in life and we see something that may not be good, we use our minds to look at our reaction and to try and make a reaction that will benefit our experience. So if we see an accident on the side of the road, many of us will go to a place of knowing the truth, that God is there, present. Everything that's needed for a positive, good outcome is flowing into that situation. We also believe that there's a divine right path or divine right action for everyone. We may not know what it is, but everyone is divinely guided. And then we'll move on and we'll release any negative. We'll know the truth. You know, where other people might get really caught up in the horror of the experience, we don't do that as Science of Mind people, as religious scientists, or people in New Thought practice. So we have a little bit of a burden, which is always looking at our lives and challenging our reactions to life and doing the better thing, which is being God, which is being God in action. So the first burden I think about is that we have to look past that effect and know the truth. All the time, right? 100% of the time, we've got to do it. And the second is that we have to know the perfection in every single human being. We have to know that God is expressing in everyone, no matter what, and that God is attempting to express in its perfection, and we as humans tend to get in the way of that. So if we knew the truth of ourselves and never challenged it, just let God flow out of us, through us, we would live the most beautiful, joyous, loving lives ever. Healthy, prosperous, complete, whole. best career, best apartment, best house, best everything. It would only be God's way to express its perfection in us. But we get in the way of that as humans, and we learn how to pull ourselves out of that and stop blocking the good. This means, because we have to know that God is perfectly expressing that the impulse of perfection is everywhere, we have to look at the bad guys and see their truth too. And I wanted to just say that that's a little bit of a burden sometimes. So when the press wants to say there are really bad guys out to attack us 24/7, and they almost got here last week, right? If you were watching the news, there was a suspicion that there might be something that was going to happen, and the bad guys were coming again. And that may all be correct in the human experience, but we have to know the truth that there are no bad guys anywhere. Right?
Right.
There's only beautiful God in everyone.
Yes.
In our practical mysticism class that just ended a few weeks ago, we spent 10 weeks learning as mystics to see the good and whole in everyone, and to release any obstacle of seeing what might not be the truth in everyone. So, now, I wanted to mention, oh, by the way, in my notes, which I don't use notes very often, I have the word breathe on every page. Breathe. Would you all please breathe? Okay. Oh, good. The other people thought that was, okay. So, there's a little project going on, it started today, this morning, and it's on this little yellow piece of paper. I hope you all got one. We have more. And it's called the 9/11 Peace Intention Experiment. And I think this is interesting, so I wanted to bring it up here. And so for 9 days, today plus 8 more days, at 10 o'clock California time, it's going on all around the world, but at 10 o'clock for our time, so that's pretty easy, right? You don't have to wake up at 2 in the morning to do something. This group, it's a web group, so it's everybody, social media, everybody can do this together. This group will be hosting a kind of a spiritual, meditative experience for 30 minutes each of these days. And you log in, and they're going to have slides going by, and you're going to meditate and set your intention for peace on each one of these flipping by your computer. But the real concept behind this is, and you see it here, I bolded it, the object is to jointly apologize for the 9/11 tragedy and its aftermath. Okay, to jointly apologize. So half the room that went, for a moment, that went right over your head, and half the room that got you right in your heart. And in a minute, it's going to get us all in our heart. Okay, so why would we need to apologize for something that happened in New York with the bad guy culprits that came very far away? Why would we here need to get to a place to apologize for any of it? And that's what this project is about. So I'd like to consider doing this for the rest of this week. So I don't know if any of you have done the, I know I always have a hard time saying it, the Ho'oponopono prayer. Ho'oponopono, is that it? Ho'oponopono. Okay. And this is a practice where no matter what the situation and no matter what your perceived relationship to it is, you will find a way to come to a place of knowing that you have some responsibility into it, and then forgive yourself and love yourself and release it. So some of you have done this, and we're going to do this together right now. So I'm going to read a couple of statements, and then we together will do the prayer. And the prayer is really simple. You can see it here on the bottom. I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I love you, and thank you. So imagine, bring this close to home. You're in a relationship that's not working well, and you finally come to a place maybe in that relationship where you have to release or let go. And there's a moment where you actually see that you're partly responsible for what's happened, and you get filled with a sense of knowingness, and you look at the other person and you say, I am so sorry. We've had a really bad argument with somebody, a feud that's been going on forever, and then some enlightenment comes and you realize you're partly responsible for that situation.